Greetings, Spooky fans! Michael here, and just a few days ago, the Crown Tundra, or as I like to call it, the Crown Tundra, just came out, the second part of the Sword and Shield expansion pass. I've really been enjoying playing through it, and if you want to see my journey through it, my playlist is linked up in the cards. The Crown Tundra is exciting because it introduced quite a few new Pokemon, with different forms counting as new Pokemon because that's basically what they are. Today, I'm gonna be cluing you in on which of these new Pokemon are the strongest by ranking them from weakest to strongest. I'll mainly be doing this ranking by base stat total, since that's what I've done historically, and it's also the most data-driven way to do it. However, if there's any ties in base stat total, I will break those ties based on the Pokemon's general competitive viability. I am not an expert in competitive battling, so take my rankings with a grain of salt, but I feel like I know a good amount and feel reasonably confident in my rankings. Also, in case it wasn't obvious, this video will contain spoilers for some of the new Pokemon and new forms, so if you want to avoid those, go play the Crown Tundra, and then come back. But I think that covers all the intro stuff, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel since less than half of my viewers are subscribed, and let's dive into—
Ha! It is I, Grunty Boy, here once again to cause chaos and misery.
What is it now, Grunty Boy?
I am here to gloat, for I have done something truly vile. I've crippled your YouTube channel by stealing your video editing capabilities.
You stole my knowledge of how to edit videos well? Cut back to him.
What? No. What? How would I even do that? I'm a thief, not a wizard.
But it just did the— Never mind, what did you actually steal?
I stole your video editing software.
You stole Filmora 10?
No, I stole some other one.
Oh, thank goodness. I would have been really upset otherwise.
Wait, what? I stole the wrong one?
Yeah, you must have stolen my old one. Lately, I've been using Wondershare Filmora 10, which is actually the sponsor of today's video. It's a popular video editor for both beginners and experienced video editors because it's incredibly easy to use and packed full of amazing features.
What? Well, I must steal this at once.
No need. You can test it out completely for free.
Well, that is actually pretty nice. Okay, hard to argue with that. You said it's the 10th one?
Yep, and that's the newest one, which you're gonna want. They added lots of dope new features like motion tracking, keyframing, color matching, and audio ducking. My personal favorite is motion tracking, since it allows me to easily have an object align with something moving in a clip.
I would be a lot more offended by that clip if it wasn't so impressive. Oh my God, what did you do to me?
I was just using one of Filmora 10's massive library of video effects. They also have video transitions, filters, animated title templates, and royalty-free music to avoid pesky copyright claims. They're all super easy to use.
What? But how are you editing this video while we're in it?
Very carefully.
That doesn't even mean anything. I can't deal with this. I'm out of here.
Oh, well, let me help you.
Don't you dare!
Goodbye, Grunty Boy. Don't worry, he's fine. But anyways, now's the perfect time to pick up a new hobby or skill, so go download Filmora 10 using my link in the description below and try it out for free today and start editing your first video. Also, one lucky person who leaves a comment on this video about their experience with Filmora 10 will be selected to win a free 1-year license. So be sure to download it and give it a try today. But now back to our ranking of the strongest new Pokemon in the Crown Tundra. The lowest Pokemon on the list is, unsurprisingly, Galarian Slowking, since after all, it's the only not legendary on the list. But it didn't lose by much. Galarian Slowking has a base stat total of 490, which is solid, but by no means jaw-dropping. It's clearly set up to be a slow, bulky attacker, having good HP, decent defense, quite good special attack and special defense, and then poor attack and speed. Unlike its counterpart Galarian Slowbro, it lacks an ability that can make it move first, that being Slowbro's Quick Draw. So if you want your Galarian Slowking to move first, you have to use Trick Room, which is viable. It can learn it. Galarian Slowbro's signature move is Eerie Spell, an 80 base power psychic type move that removes 3 power points from the target's last used move. I'm not totally sure this is better than just plain old psychic because Eerie Spell is a bit weaker. Although that could come in handy if you cut down the PP of a certain 5 PP move, like Hydro Pump. Although, if someone in a ranked battle is doing things correctly, their 5 PP moves will have 8 PP, so therefore the Eerie Spell cut down doesn't help as much. Galarian Slowking's main gimmick is its signature ability, Curious Medicine, which makes it so Slowking removes all of the stat changes of its ally whenever it enters battle, whether those stat changes were positive or negative. So first off, this ability is useless in single battles, so you'd go with Regenerator or Own Tempo in a single battle. In a double setup, it has some strategic specific use, but I don't think widespread use because it prevents you from pairing Galarian Slowking with any Pokemon you're gonna try and set up with, because it'll enter the field and remove all of its boosts. And not just a Pokemon that's gonna use a setup move like Swords Dance, but also any Pokemon that's gonna use one of the max moves that boosts your side's stats. Where I see Curious Medicine becoming the most helpful is when you pair it alongside a Pokemon that uses a move that drops its own stats, like Leaf Storm or Draco Meteor dropping its special attack or Superpower dropping its attack and defense. If you bring in Galarian Slowking, you get rid of those drops. So basically it's an ability that is really only good in specific situations. I personally think if Galarian Slowking sees use, it's mainly gonna be with Regenerator. So Galarian Slowking is lowest in the ranking of strongest new Pokemon, and also lowest in the ranking of how cool I think it looks. I'm sorry, dude, but you're just so ugly. But it's only in last place for the strongest new Pokemon by a mere 10 base stat total points. The Pokemon that barely edged it out was Calyrex in its normal form. Calyrex has a base stat total of 500, one of the lowest out there for legendary Pokemon, and I believe the lowest of all legendary Pokemon that cannot evolve. Although, spoilers, Calyrex can basically evolve. It has a solid base 100 HP and then 80 in everything else. To me, this spread makes it pretty unviable, as it is simply mediocre in everything. Pokemon with 2 evenly distributed stats like Glalie and Castform tend to fare poorly. The exception to that are some of the mythicals like Mew, but those work because their base stat totals are a very high 100. Additionally, Grass Psychic isn't a great typing. 7 weaknesses is a lot, and one of them is 4 times. It does have 6 resistances, but I'm not sure that makes up for it in my opinion. I could of course be wrong, but I don't think Calyrex will have much, if any, success in the competitive scene, if it's allowed to participate, because this Calyrex, not any good. The other Calyrexes, we'll get to those. Next up, we have a Pokemon with a base stat total of 580, and it is a 7-way tie. Are you kidding me? The new Reggies, the Galarian legendary birds, and the Steeds all have base stat totals of 580, which means I have to rank them by general competitive viability, which is hard because I'm not a competitive expert. But I do know one. I asked the lovely General Tar Heel for input on this, and oh my God, thank goodness I did, because the ranking he gave me was wildly different than what I was planning. So yeah, yikes, really would have embarrassed myself. So a massive thank you to him for the input. If you have any interest at all in competitive battling or draft league type stuff, you should definitely go subscribe to him as a thank you for helping me with this. But now on to the rankings. The lowest of the base 580 total Pokemon is Reggie Drago. Reggie Drago has a really weird stat spread. It has an astounding base 200 HP, the 5th highest of all Pokemon, excluding Eternamax Eternatus since it can't be used in battle. Then it has equally good attack and special attack, bad defenses, and middling speed. So it's half bulky, half not, kind of fast, but not really, and then decently solid attack power, but split between both sides. It's Really strange. An important thing to note though is its ability, Dragon's Maw, which gives an extra 50% power boost to its dragon type moves, effectively making its stab boost 2.25 times instead of 1.5 times. So it can hit pretty freaking hard, especially if it's at full health and uses dragon energy, which is base 150 power if Reggie Drago is completely healthy. Reggie Drago has one pretty severe flaw though. It has no coverage moves. Here are all of the non-dragon and non-normal type attacks that it can learn that are over 60 base power. Yes, this is all of them. And the types aren't good either, as they aren't helping in dealing with the types that wall it. It can't touch fairies at all, and while it has Fire Fang and Hammer Arm for steel types, Fire Fang is weak and Hammer Arm has the speed lowering drawback. Additionally, all of these moves are physical, which is unfortunate since Reggie Drago's two best stab moves, Dragon Energy and Draco Meteor, are special. Now, this isn't to say Reggie Drago is just completely useless. Like, you could run a physical set with Dragon Dance and Dragon Claw or Outrage and then some of those coverage moves I mentioned. However, that's basically all you can do, so it's extremely limited and predictable, which makes it the worst of the base 580 total Pokemon. The one just above Reggie Drago is the other new Reggie Elechi. Reggie Elechi has another wild stat spread. It's the same as Reggie Drago's, but with the HP and speed swapped. This does make Reggie Elechi pretty frail, but it can get around that with its speed. That base speed stat of 200 literally makes Reggie Elechi the fastest Pokemon in the entire main series, finally taking the crown from Speed Form Deoxys, who has held it since Gen 3. It also has an ability just like Reggie Drago's. This one is called Transistor, and it gives a 50% power boost to its electric type moves, taking its stab boost from 1.5 times to 2.25 times. Now, it has just middling offensive power since it's base 100 in both attack and special attack, but with this ability, its electric type moves really pack a punch. However, both like Reggie Drago and me at my high school prom, it has no moves. Once again, here are all of the non-stab and non-normal type moves it can learn that are over 60 base power. There's Zip, Zilch, Nada, and they're physical too, and being a physical electric type attacker really sucks, so you really can't even use these. Reggie Elechi is ranked higher than Reggie Drago because it has a lot more potential to be an offensive threat, since it hits pretty hard with its electric moves, and Thunder Cage is a very solid move due to its ability to trap. However, Reggie Elechi gets completely stopped by any electric immune Pokemon, and even just Pokemon that resist electric. So it's predictable and certainly not versatile. Next up is Galerion Moltres, my favorite aesthetically of the three new legendary birds, but unfortunately the worst in the battle department. Its stat spread is pretty balanced across the board, excelling really only in special defense, but not floundering anywhere. It becomes kind of a bulky-ish jack of all trades, which I guess is fine, but it lacks a reliable recovery move like Roost, meaning its bulk has limits. Side note, Rest does not count as a reliable recovery move. If recovering requires you to take a nap for 2 turns, it's not recovering reliably. So its stats are solid, but not eye-popping in any particular department, but it also has 2 other flaws. First is its ability. Galerion Moltres gets Berserk, which just boosts its special attack by 1 stage when it takes a hit that moves its HP below half. 1 stage, 1 time, and it requires Moltres to be under half health for it to even activate? That is a garbage ability compared to the abilities of the other new birds. Another issue is its move pool. It lacks much coverage and reliable recovery like I mentioned, plus its signature move Fiery Wrath is just Dark Pulse, but slightly stronger. Galarian Moltres seems to be caught halfway between a bulky support Pokemon and an offensive sweeper, which ends up just making it mediocre at both. I think it'll still see some use. I mean, it's got a really good base stat total, but it's certainly not anything special, which is a shame because it looks really cool. Next up, we have the Cyclops bird, Galarian Articuno. This bird is set up more for offense, having decent speed and a great 125 special attack. I think it would be better if some of its bulk was sacrificed for more speed, but this is still quite solid. Additionally, it has the ability Competitive, which boosts its special attack by 2 stages anytime any of its stats are lowered by an opponent. With how often stat drops occur in competitive battling metagames, specifically the doubles metagame, due to stuff like Intimidate or max moves dropping the stats of both Pokemon rather than just the one the max move targets, that's a big deal, and it makes Competitive a fantastic ability in competitive battling. Its signature move is Freezing Glare, which is essentially just Psychic-type Ice Beam. Same power as Psychic, but with a chance to freeze instead of a chance to drop special defense. I think it's a pretty solid move, and Freezing can really screw over your opponent if you happen to get one. As for what its flying coverage is, you're basically choosing between Air Slash and Hurricane. Its special move pool isn't great though, with really its only coverage being Ancient Power and Shadow Ball. However, it does have access to a ton of support moves, like the Screens, Tailwind, Recover, and Hypnosis. In short, Galarian Articuno is not an OP powerhouse, but I think it's an overall pretty solid Pokemon that I expect to see used a good amount. Next up is our first steed, Glastrier. As the name implies, it is as strong and as slow as a glacier. Glastrier has awful speed and bad special attack, but great everything else. Its bulk is overall excellent, and its physical attack power is jaw-dropping. Plus, it can get even stronger when it KOs opponents thanks to its ability Chilling Neigh, which is just a renamed Moxie, boosting its attack each time it KOs something. And unlike several of the Pokemon we've discussed so far, it has a great move pool, having great coverage moves like Close Combat, High Horsepower, Crunch, Mega Horn, Outrage, and Heavy Slam. Plus, it has Sword Stance, which can make its attack power even more disgustingly huge. Glastrier does have some drawbacks though. One of them is its speed. However, this one is the easiest to overcome. First off, its incredible bulk helps offset the fact that it is very slow. Also, could you imagine using this Pokemon in Trick Room? Oh my god! The next drawback is its typing, and it actually leads to 2 sub-drawbacks. The Ice type is just... God, I'm sorry guys, it's so bad. This is Glastrier's type matchup chart, and as you can see, it has 4 weaknesses, no immunities, and only 1 measly resistance to other ice moves. This is why defensive ice types of the past, like Regice or Avalugg, have struggled to be really viable. They have the stats to be defensive Pokemon, but their typing means they don't have any resistances, so their bulk is easier to overcome. The other drawback of Glastrier being an ice type is that it's a physical attacker. And in my opinion, the options for physical ice moves aren't as good as the special options. You can't use the tried and true Ice Beam. You have to pick from other options that I think all have some drawbacks. Icicle Crash is almost as strong as Ice Beam, but it's not 100% accurate. And as we all know, if it's not 100% accurate, it's 50% accurate. Plus, Glastrier is too slow to make use of the flinch chance. Avalanche can be 120 base power if the user takes a hit, which Glastrier can do due to being slow and bulky, but having to take a hit to do big damage isn't the best scenario. Icicle Spear can hit many times and can be really devastating, but it also can just hit 2 times and not be much damage at all. There's also Triple Axle, but Glastrier doesn't get it, which is a shame. I think it'd be a fabulous figure skater. Glastrier's final drawback is that it doesn't have a reliable recovery move, which is always nice to have, especially on bulky Pokemon. Glastrier will absolutely have success, but I think there's 2 more base 580 Pokemon that are just a bit better. Right above Glastrier is the other steed, the My Little Pony Queen, Spectrier. Spectrier has fantastic stats for a sweeper. Like with Glastrier, its main attacking stat is incredible, but Spectrier is extremely fast. Speed on par with Pokemon like Tapu Koko, Aerodactyl, and Mewtwo. Additionally, it has both Nasty Plot and Grim Neigh, the special version of Moxie, meaning as it sweeps, it only gets stronger. It is somewhat frail, but that base 100 HP does help a lot. Plus, pure ghost typing is decently solid, having 2 immunities and 2 resistances, then just 2 weaknesses. Spectrier unfortunately has the same problem as a lot of the other new Pokemon. it has like no coverage moves at all. In fact, its only special coverage moves are Dark Pulse, Snarl, and Mudshot, meaning a normal or a dark type Pokemon wall it pretty bad. However, because it's so freaking fast and strong, you can just toss a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs on it and just spam Shadow Ball once you've eliminated all of your opponent's dark and normal types. And at that point, you just sweep through their team like a hot knife through butter. And then finally, what I believe to be the best of the new 580 base stat total Pokemon is Galarian Zapdos. This spiky Roadrunner will kill you. This is its stat spread. Awesome 125 attack, solid 100 speed, and then actually solid bulk across the board, which I think makes up for not having the best speed out there. That means its stat spread sets it up to be a reasonably fast and reasonably bulky attacker. It also has Defiant, an excellent ability for boosting its offensive power, just like competitive. These abilities got so much better once Dynamax came into play because of all the stat drops that max moves use. Oh, by the way, Galarian Zapdos has an incredible move pool. You've got Thunderous Kick, which drops the opponent's defense stat, making subsequent hits do more. You've got Brave Bird in close combat for stupid, powerful stab moves. You've got weaker flying moves without the recoil, like Drill Peck, Dual Wing Beat, and Acrobatics. You've got U-Turn for pivoting. You've got other coverage moves like Throat Chop, Blaze Kick, Stomping Tantrum, and Steel Wing. You've got Bulk Up and Agility for setting up. You've got options. Plus, its typing is reasonably solid. It does have 5 weaknesses, but it also has 4 resistances and an immunity. Galarian Zapdos is the best 580 base stat total Pokemon out there, and I think it's going to be the most impactful in the competitive scene. After all, the only Pokemon stronger than it are so strong that they'll be banned in everything. That actually brings us to the point where we're discussing these Pokemon. The 2 strongest new Pokemon are Calorex's fusion forms. Ice Rider Calyrex and Shadow Rider Calyrex. I will say, I think it's a little weird to have one Pokemon riding another one, but like, the names are cool. Both of these forms have base stat totals of 680, pretty standard for cover art legends like Dialga or Xerneas. Ice Rider Calyrex is Glastrier's bulky and slow physical attacker spread on steroids, and Shadow Rider's spread is Spectrier's fast special sweeper spread on steroids. Both forms have As 1 as their ability, which combines Calorex's ability, Unnerve, with the respective Steed's ability. Clearly both of them are extremely overpowered, as cover legendaries tend to be. But which one of them is stronger? I'm giving my vote to Shadow Rider Calyrex, and here's why. The first reason is typing. As you can see, the Ice Psychic Ice Rider Calyrex has 6 weaknesses, no immunities, and only 2 resistances, which is not great for a defensive Pokemon. Meanwhile, Shadow Rider Calyrex does have 2 4x weaknesses, but those are its only weaknesses, and then it has 2 immunities and 2 resistances tacked on top. Plus, it being so fast means it's unlikely to have to take hits before it gets to attack. The next reason is the move pool. First, I should mention both forms get an OP signature stab move, Ice Rider getting the 130 power Glacial Lance, and Shadow Rider getting the 120 power Astral Barrage. These are, of course, incredibly amazing moves. They're 120, 130 power, and are 100% accurate. These moves also help the Steeds with their main stab move problem. Before, the best stab moves were probably Icicle Crash and Shadow Ball for Glastrier and Spectrier respectively, and both of those moves were under 90 base power. Now they have a move that's just way better than that. However, both of them gained a lot more coverage moves due to now being part of Calyrex. Glastrier already had good coverage, but it gains a bit more with physical grass and psychic moves like Seed Bomb and Zen Headbutt. Spectrier had poor coverage, but it gains a lot more now due to being part of Calyrex, with plenty of grass and psychic options to pick from, plus Pollen Puff and Draining Kiss. So this still results in Shadow Rider having fewer coverage moves than Ice Rider, but the coverage moves are more impactful for Shadow Rider, because before it was walled by Dark and Normal types, and now it has a Bug move and Stab Psychic moves that Normal types don't resist, so like, the things that could stop it can no longer stop it. As I said, both of the rider forms are obviously extremely and absurdly overpowered, but I think Shadow Rider is a bit better, making it the strongest new Pokemon in the Crown Tundra. Thanks so much for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons over on Patreon, who are helping support my channel independent of the fluctuating nature of YouTube ad rates. If you want to help support me in the same way, the link is in the description below. Also, if you want to check out some more of my fun Pokemon content, I recommend the things that I just gestured to around here. All right, that's all I have for now. So till next time, big fans, gotta catch them all.